The number one source of friction in your engine is not what you think. Piston rings rubbing against the cylinder walls generate more friction than any other part of the engine. More friction and temperature means more wear and less horsepower. Fortunately, the team at Total Seal knows how to reduce friction and wear through innovative piston ring design. If it takes a piston, Total Seal can build a better ring.
For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod Driveline Components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, WFO Radio is back and we're getting ready to go racing, baby. At the zMAX Dragway, the Bellagio of drag strips, Top Fuel's 1000th race. That's insanity if you think about 1,000 Top Fuel events. And it's going to be really cool. On the show, we're going to have Clay Millican just seconds away. We're also going to have the winner of the 700th Top Fuel race. NHRA keeps these stats, and it's kind of cool. You don't think about them until they come up, and then it's like, oh my goodness, like who won the 900th Top Fuel race? Like, wow, how did that happen? Who won the 800th? We have those information. We have that information because they're all going to be there at the race this weekend, including the man who won the first, Big Daddy. Going to be on the show and very excited. I ask you to hang with me for the hour. Jason Galvin also going to be on the show, the winner of the 700. I'll just tell you because I want all his fans to be on the show because also he is a super dark horse in the Play NHRA odds that I think everybody's going to want to run out there. And I wouldn't say mortgage your home. Don't do that. But maybe find a $5 bill because it could be good odds. We'll talk about all of that, but let's bring on our guest of honor. He's the man. He's like retweeting the show as we speak, as I would encourage everybody to do. Share the show, baby. Share the show as we bring on Lucas Oil Winter Nationals winner, Clay Millican. What's up, Clay? How are you?
I'm good. That's exactly what I was doing.
Maybe I should do that too. I should retweet. You think?
I just did that. That's what I was clicking send on right there. But I tell you, 1,000 races in Top Fuel. That is absolutely incredible. Now it makes me wonder, I don't know how many I participated in, but quite a few of them. But then the next thing that pops in my little pea brain is who currently has the most? I've got to believe that maybe Doug Coletta. I mean, I'm asking all these questions that I know at the moment you probably don't have the answer.
What do you mean the most? The most races competed in?
Yeah, currently in Top Fuel.
It's Doug.
Yeah, it's got to be Doug, right?
It's Doug. He had some sort of amazing stat a couple of years ago. It was a stunning, like 2 years ago. Off the top of my head, that's where I do not recall it, but it was something massive. Doug Coletta is one of the rare drivers who has X amount of rounds and races, et cetera, and so on. The most wins, that one's easy, is your future teammate.
Yeah, that is very true. And I mean, I'm thinking now, again, just kind of rambling in my brain here. I think probably Doug Coletta and myself are probably the oldest Top Fuel guys that compete full time. You know, I think he started just a little sooner than I did in 98.
I think that's cool, man. I think that's one of my favorite parts about drag racing is that there is, we make a big deal of all the different diversities. But we don't really talk about age diversity. Really the only sport that's got that, right? Where like an older guy can go up against an 18-year-old kid and whoop him.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's no doubt about it. I mean, it's definitely a sport. You know, it's funny, you know, just recently with Tony Stewart winning, and I know we're going to talk about that some, you know, they were asking Kyle Larson, I heard an interview, and if he would do it because he's known for doing everything. And he's like, well, you know, haven't thought about it, but maybe when I get 60 years old, I'll do it. You know, that's kind of funny that I don't know if that was a little dig at the old guys, you know, not calling Tony old. He's not as old as I am, but making the move over to drag racing. But I think that right now, you know, the sport is definitely in one of the best spots it's been in a long time as far as the competitiveness. Top to bottom is just absolutely insane, you know, and 1,000 races. When was the first race, Joe? When was the first Top Fuel race?
On Garlett's 1963. It was you caught me on the spot, but I got the information. And they're all going to be there. Big Daddy's going to be there this weekend. And there's going to be autograph sessions and a special hero card for the winner of the the 100th and the 200th, which is Daryl Gwynn, and so on. And we'll, we can go into that a little bit. But I think that's a special promotion, zMAX Dragway, right? Like, we have ourselves kind of a cool deal going on this weekend as we go to our second of 3 4-wide races. I want to delve into all of that, but let's go back to the Lucas Oil Winter Nationals, Clay, because we didn't get you on because Kenny Wallace, man, and his reaction time, he beat me.
He did. I mean, y'all both were wanting to do it at the same time, and he texted right in front of you, like y'all were almost back to back. I'm sitting in the airport on my way home, and Kenny texts me, and he says, "Hey, can you come on the show?" And I'm like, "Man, that'd be really cool," and then we end up on the phone together, and he's like, "Benny Parsons told me," he said, I kept asking Benny, he said, "How come I'm never on TV? I want to be on TV." And Benny Parsons told him, "All you got to do is run up front and win, and you'll be on TV." But you know what? Those are correct things. If you want to be on TV, you need to be winning. And the Winter Nationals was certainly a big weekend for us. It's pretty cool to start the year off sooner. We, in the past few years, it seems like we take a little while to kind of get the old train rolling, and then we get rolling pretty good. But to win that one is a big one. I still look at it, and I think it is a major. I feel like, obviously, U.S. Nationals, the Winter Nationals, Gainesville, those are our version of golf terms majors. In NASCAR world, they're the crown jewels. And in my opinion, those are the 3 big ones. And I feel like we kind of lost one years and years ago when we lost Englishtown, back in the day when we got drag racing, only a few times a year on worldwide of sports. You got the Gator Nationals, Winter Nationals, and obviously Indy, and Englishtown going away. I feel like we lost one. And I would be curious what you would think, what would be after Gainesville, what's the next major?
Wow. Well, the way the Texas Motorplex is creating their Stampede of Speed event, 10, 11 days, concerts, thousands of people coming in. They got that divisional race now, all kinds of stuff. I think they are vying for it. Put it that way. I think it's definitely up for conversation, the Texas Motorplex.
I got one I got to add in there that we also lost that I felt like was right there because of the uniqueness and everything about it was Bandimere. That place was special and unique. And, it had such a long running history, but I like the Motorplex. I do. I like that idea.
It's got to be a long running thing. It's Texas. Yeah. Everything's bigger in Texas. They're really working hard to make it huge. You get all this bonus stuff for winning, the buckle and the hat, and you get to be at the champions dinner. Like, they're really working hard to elevate it. And since we've lost Englishtown, which, had such a rich history, and, obviously the finals is a major. Like, you win the finals, that's a big, big deal.
I want to say something about that, though.
Yeah.
This has been a big conversation amongst all of my racing friends. Do you think that it's a major? Because I feel like the race itself is maybe slightly overlooked because we're crowning champions. So I think it takes a little. I think it takes a little something away from the race. Let's say you win the race, but you're not the champion. So I don't consider the finals as much a major because it's split. Now, if you're the champion and you win it, that's cool. But it's still, the talk is going to be about the championship and not the race. This has been an ongoing discussion amongst, all my racing friends.
Bruce Federagon a couple of years ago, right? He wins the race and it's like he didn't win the championship and he got to be celebrated and it was great. But like even me, who am I going after for the interview? I'm going after the champion. I definitely see your point. But at the same time, beating everyone when they're at their best, when the fangs are out the most, hardest races to win, man, the finals in that pressure cooker, but maybe you don't have a championship on the line and you're carefree, right? Because it's the last race of the year.
Carefree, you know, you got nothing to lose, no pressure, you know, if you're not running for that championship. I don't know. My opinion, some of my racing buddies didn't agree, but my opinion, I don't see the finals as a major. I see it as the stage for the championship run for those people that got their fangs out and all that. And then you might have somebody that's like, I ain't going to win the championship. I'm going to set the tune up on kill, and maybe they get away with it, and maybe they affect the championship and they win the race. But WFO is going to mention them, but he's going to go find that champion and talk to him.
I agree. Well, maybe this year, you know, you'll be in the mix and you'll have a different attitude about the deal, right? Like, who knows?
Yeah,
everyone's saying what's up.
About that championship.
Everyone's saying what's up. Everybody's saying hello to Clay. Howdy from Kansas. Tracy's out there. Pow, pow, of course. Mary saying what's up. Matt is out there stomping that loud pedal. Hello, Clay. Randy Clay right there with John Force, and Big Daddy is the best voice for drag racing. I love that. That's good. Mark is out there from Redline. What's up? How are you? Everybody weighing in. All right, so let's dig a little bit deeper on something you just brought up. Tony Stewart, you said in the media center after beating him, it's going to happen soon. It's happening so soon. It's happening any minute. And it happened any minute. The next race, 4 wide, a track that he was so happy. Now we're going to Charlotte as you two, the most recent race winners on the tour. Don't oversell it. Honest opinion. How big a deal is it to have Tony now as a winner, not as a guy who's racing, but as someone who could win this race? If you're a fan, he could go out there and win it.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you know, you could look at it as they are the best car going out there right now. They've been in 2 finals in a row, and, you know, they run it up and they won one. You know, that's pretty dang huge. But for him to win was different than me winning, let's say, the Winter Nationals just a couple weeks before, because it was talked about everywhere. You know, it was worldwide news. Literally, that news traveled the world. You know, I've won those races before, and I certainly am not a NASCAR Hall of Famer. So, you know, what he's done for our sport is huge. And I think it's really awesome that, you know, I drive for a NASCAR owner. Tony was a NASCAR, you know, he is a NASCAR legend. So, you know, he shakes things up in a different way that nobody else can because of the things he's done, the things he's won in. And I knew it was coming, you know, and I'm still glad it wasn't me that he beat in the final. And I suspect all those other cars, the other 3 cars in the final, are kind of glad it wasn't specified down to them as the one who let him win his first race. But I knew it was coming.
Nobody wants to be that person. I remember years ago on WFO, this tells you exactly how old we are with this show, is that Greg Anderson said on the air that he didn't want to be the one to lose to Erica, right? And then it happened, and he was Erica's first victim, and now she's about to have 50. That is just insane. But you don't want to be that footnote in history, if you will. But listen, we're not going to talk all about Tony Stewart here. We're going to talk about you guys and what's going on. Does 4 wide have a different ring to it now that it's in the playoffs? Like when you go to these races, are you thinking like, wait a second, this is going to happen later, and I need to really embrace this thing because it's going to happen in the playoffs, and not everybody loves it, and maybe there's an advantage there?
Well, it's certainly something I need to think about more because as my thumbnail for my YouTube video from the racetrack was, I'm an idiot. I personally love the challenge of the 4 wide, but at the same time, I 100% dropped the ball first round, you know, in Vegas on the 4 wide thing, you know, for so many years. And it's just the way I drive, but I drive the car with the team owner's wallet in mind. You know, my right foot, my stomp on the loud pedal foot is on the owner's wallet. And for whatever reason, I 100% was zoned in on my side, which you should be. And I smoked the tires a little ways down the racetrack. And I see Doug Coletta driving away from us. And my focus was, I'm getting beat. I'm smoking the tires. I should stop right now and not blow this thing up. But the 4 wide, you have an opportunity to beat other cars. And I lost that information in my brain. I stepped off the throttle and I had a brief instant to realize I just messed that up, because it took a moment before I saw the rear wing of Justin Ashley go whizzing by me. He smoked the tires and goes to 280. I smoked the tires and was coasting and went 230, and I only lost by 3 or 4 500ths. So, I'm glad I got that out of the way now, not during the playoffs, but I definitely made the mistake on that. I just admitted it. I did it. It was my fault. Did we want to smoke the tires? No, but should I have won that round? Yes, I should have. Well, I should have been runner-up in that round and moved on to the next one. But moving, the 4 wides into the playoffs, the purists all hate it. I see the comments all the time, especially on the YouTube thing. I see it. But it brings fans out. And what it does is bring fans out that aren't necessarily our hardcore fans. And to be honest, we got our hardcore fans, and I love them. I am a hardcore fan myself, but it exposes our sport to people that probably maybe not would come unless it's the 4 wide. It is a huge game changer to put a 4 wide in the playoffs, because I may be incorrect about this, but I think it's been more than 10 years ago when the 4 wides first come about, and the PRO, Professional Racer Organization, which is basically our voice to the NHRA, had made it very clear that we will do this 4 wide race as long as it's not in the playoffs. Well, here we are. We have one in the playoffs, and if it brings more fans to watch our sport in person, I'm all for it.
Well, my analysis on this deal, and Antron told me a couple of years ago that he'd like to see it. To me, it's about the market. It's market specific. That second race in Charlotte is always extremely light. There's a lot going on. The NFL is up and running, and we've sold these folks on 4 wide. Like, that was their first whole deal, the first 4 wide track. And then in the playoffs, we don't run 4 wide. The 4 wide event this weekend is going to be very, very full. There's going to be a large crowd there. And then the second race, they're kind of like, meh, because if you're doing the basic math, and maybe they're not, but I think that they are, 4 is greater than 2. And they're just like, why would I go see the 2 when I can see the 4? And they make that decision as simply as that. 2 is less than 4. Let's go to the 4 wide. Now it's 4 wide in the playoffs, and you've taken that rationale away from them. Now it's like playoffs or no playoffs, and we'll see how it works. But that's my take.
Yep, it's going to be interesting for sure. I mean, I'm not mad about it. Good.
All right, so let's talk Kyle Larson. Yeah, I want to be extreme and say, is he a coward? But that's not what I want to do. He said he watched, Tony told us, he watched the run. He says, I'm not doing that. Maybe when I'm 60. We see Randy Couture is going to get his license in a pro mod car. If you're a competitor in your heart, drag racing does afford you the option to keep competing long after you've worn out your welcome in IndyCar, Formula One, NASCAR, any other style of racing, certainly UFC. But that having been said, to be a racer and not want to experience the rush of 0 to 100 in less than 1 second, to deny yourself that experience because of what? Why would you not want that, Clay? If you're Kyle Larson, if you're any driver, gosh, you're just going straight.
I got a funny story. Of course, I'm always full of stories, and it's a long story, but I'm going to make short. So I'm at dinner at a fancy, and I'm not a fancy food place, but it was a sponsor event. I'm in Sonoma, and I'm with some of our partners, and this guy's wife, I'm not going to name names because they probably will watch this, huge Kyle Larson fan, and she had never been to a Top Fuel race, NHRA race at all, but she had been to a lot of NASCAR race. And she loved Kyle Larson, and she was like, what you do is easy. You just go straight. There's nothing to it. And I said, okay, I think Kyle Larson is one of the greatest drivers on the planet, period. I said, but I promise you this, if you put Kyle Larson in my Top Fuel car with giving him 0 instructions, he couldn't operate my car. I said, but on the flip side of that, you could put me in Kyle Larson's Cup car, and with 0 instructions, I think I could figure it out, start it up, and drive it around the racetrack. I said, could I drive it fast as him? Absolutely not. I said, but I think tomorrow when you go and see what we do, you will change your mind. Well, this was a battle back and forth. She was, telling me, all these things, there's not 40 other cars, all the things any 100% NASCAR person would say about how easy our sport is. Well, after the first qualifying run the next day, this lady come and gave me a sincere apology. And I'm like, you don't have to apologize. But if you've never seen or experienced what nitro cars are, you don't have that concept. And that's where we get a little bit of disconnect from our television audience that has never been before. You've got to experience that. Right back to Tony Stewart, same thing. First time I ever had a conversation with him, I was happy that he said that this was one of the hardest things he's ever done because his brain never left the starting line when he stomped on the loud pedal, So I think it's really cool that, so many people from other forms of sports are coming to drag racing. And I think we do have the most unique sport there is, just for all of the things that we've already talked about.
Yeah, I agree. And again, why would you not want the experience if it was afforded to you? And that's why Travis Pastrana, I thought, was so cool. Like, he got in the car and he gave it a shot and he said similar things. And it's our job as storytellers. All right. So the 1,000th race, Don Garlett's 1963 Winter Nationals won the first Top Fuel race. Each of the winners on the hundreds, like the 100th race, the 200th race, the 300th race, they're all going to be there this weekend. And our next guest, which I see you, by the way, down there, was the 700th winner. And it happened in 2011. You know who that is?
He's a stone cold killer is what he is. I tell you what, I miss racing this guy full time, but he will tell you, and I'm going to tell you right now, there is not all that crazy that I don't give this guy a call and chat with him and pick his brain, because he's a phenomenal racer. And I don't just mean a Top Fuel racer. This guy is a stone cold killer.
Well, he's a big bracket racer too. Hey, can I bring him on now instead of
Absolutely.
separating you guys? Can I bring him on? Let's bring on Spencer Massey, 700th winner. What up, Spence? How are you?
Doing well. How you doing, guys?
Great, great. What do you think about what Clay just had to say about you being like stone cold killer? We know about your starting line prowess.
Well, Clay and I have a long relationship going back even to the NHRA days. We did very well over there, and then we came to NHRA, and we have a lot of fun in NHRA as well. And I look up to Clay throughout my career of coming up into Top Fuel racing, and he's a great guy.
Well, it's the 1,000th Top Fuel race, and I am super excited. Now, Spence, you're going to be in Krista's car, and I want to make you guys aware of something along with the rest of the WFO universe. Now, we, the three of us, cannot take advantage of what I'm about to put out there because we all have hard cards and we're racers. But this Play NHRA initiative, guys, Clay, you are plus 891 to win the race, right? So let's call it 9-1, a $10 bet. You're going to get $90. That's not bad. I'll take that all day on Clay Millican. Don't bet on drag racing. Spence Massey here, plus 6,800. That
Wow.
$10 bet is going to get you $680. And this guy, Clay, you already know his reaction time prowess. And the car that he's in, they're part-time, but they're no joke. I'm not saying to mortgage the home or take the kids' college money out. But if you had a $10 bill in the couch, I don't know. That might be kind of fun this weekend. I think the odds makers might be missing it.
Well, I can tell you this. I would be unsurprised at all for Spencer to be in that final quad and holding up a Wally. It would not shock me. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time he's done it. That's for dang sure.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
I don't care if it is a part-time car. That's a serious ride, and Spencer is one of the best. And it's a crew that he's worked with before. So this is maybe part-time, but it ain't first time.
Yeah, that's for sure.
When you hear that, right? 6,800. I don't know. Of course, you're not a gambling man yourself. Certainly not on drag racing public, but those are long odds.
Yeah, those are long odds, and very surprising to hear that, really, but not surprising because I don't run full time, and I'm not out there, hitting those win lights all the time like we used to try doing. But I do have to say, back a few years ago when Mr. Pat Dakin owned the race car, we made it to that final quad, and I gave it a shot. Of course, we had a little malfunction with the motor, and then it smoked the tires at the step, but we were there. We got a shot at it, and we had a good chance to win. And like you said, it's the same crew guys. Scott Graham is still the crew chief, same race car, same tools, same trailer. I love that team, and they're my guys. You know, when even with Krista Baldwin owning the car now, it makes it that much more of a circle that comes around because, heck, I used to race with her grandpa, you know, with the Greek, and she used to come over and look up to me and ask for my, my experience of driving the injected nitro car because that's where she started as well. And then she come up to Top Fuel and having fun at it, no doubt about that, because you could see her excitement every time she gets out of that race car. She's having fun, but it's my turn to have fun this weekend.
And she's out there watching right now, by the way, your car owner. She says, let's go.
What's up?
There it is. Or so 1,000 races, guys, like being a representative of any class. The kings of the sport, it's hard to argue, right? Garlits, Muldowney, like, Snake started off, like so many great racers. And Spencer, being this winner of the 700th, were you going to run this race anyway, or are you running this race because of the 1,000?
Well, it was kind of on the schedule, but it was still up in the air. And obviously, whenever I got the phone call saying, hey, are you going to be there? I said, you know what? We're probably going to be there. I mean, heck, we always run the full wides anyway. And whether Krista be driving or myself, I would have been there as a support for the team. I try to every time anyway, even though sometimes I can't drive or not driving, but it's fun just to be there as support and watch my guys have fun. And you know me, I jump in there and get my hands dirty and work on stuff like I do around the shop here. I got a lot of stuff here that I constantly have to work on, but
let's see, Clay. Let's evaluate the shop. Spencer, show us a little bit. What do you got? Look at this.
Well, I got my Nova. I got my 2 bracket cars over that way, so my 3 bracket cars. I got a little Maserati and a Corvette and a Blackwing Cadillac. Cadillac Via makes over 900 on pump gas to the tires. And I got a Harley over here. And around that Blackwing is actually another Cadillac Blackwing that has an injected nitro motor in it that I'm building. So it's been a long project, but building a little pro mod, kind of like Palmer did back in the day with his Top Fuel car or Top Fuel motor in the pro mod. But that's something that he got the idea from that car sitting right back there in the corner, but we're hiding it until it's time to come out. It's a lot of fun.
With the toys, Clay. This guy, it's like he wants to have a YouTube channel now too. Or maybe he does, for what I know.
No, just me getting my hands dirty and trying to keep all the batteries charged on these things and having fun.
Yeah.
Spencer, I gotta know, have you made your way and made any laps down Yellow Belly drag strip? I know you're a Texas boy, and seeing all your toys there, I got to know if you've had the Yellow Belly experience.
You know, believe it or not, all my years of racing around here, I've never been to Yellow Belly. It's something that everybody says you have to go experience. I mean, you've watched it on the YouTube channels and all that stuff. I mean, it's a unique little racetrack. It's right in the middle of the city. It used to be an old loading dock, and now they turned it into a drag strip. They got turned in back in the 70s. And it's not affiliated with NHRA or IH or anything like that. So I've never really had an opportunity or a reason, because they don't have bracket races there. They definitely don't have Top Fuel races. So it's just something I never went out there just to watch, because you know me, it's hard not to be a part of the team, or at least driving the car or something whenever you go to a drag strip. And obviously Kennedale, that's where I learned how to bracket race, learned a junior drag race there, the Texas Motorplex. I won my first championship in juniors there at the track, my first year racing. Had a lot of opportunities racing there. There's another racetrack on the south side of town that you try and stay away from because the owner's no good, but I won't even name that name. But anyway, I travel obviously with my bracket cars all around the country. Just came back from Vegas the week before you guys were there in the 4 wide, and had a lot of fun. I run it up in the King of the Fling, lost by 10 thousandths of a second, so 0.008 in the final round to the King of the Fling, and then went 4 rounds in the million and got down to 6 cars out of 600 or whatever it was in the $60,000 race. But that old red Nova over here, it made some laps a couple weeks ago, and I should be in Galot right now because they're having another 350s going on this weekend, but I'm going Top Fuel racing instead.
Right. Well, and that's kind of interesting, right? I questioned the scheduling a little bit of course, Peter does what he's got to do when he can do it with the track, but I'm a little bummed that we've got 2 major events in the same state, really close to each other, because there's a lot of cross-pollination. I know that Dallas Glenn would love to run those fling races, and you certainly would, but and it's like Wally and like celebrity and television versus cash money, baby. Now,
Well,
Clay,
it's either spending money or going bracket racing, trying to make some money. But sometimes it's fun to spend the money and go 330 miles an hour.
Right. Now, Clay, you're a bracket racer too, though, right? Let's pump those guys up. That's what I started out doing. And to me, it's the most amazing thing in that this guy's doing it. Clay can do it. Spence is doing it at a high level. But in the end, everybody's just kind of doing the same thing, right? You either let go or you hit the bottom. You try to run the number, take the stripe, not break out.
I'm going to tell the truth. I haven't bracket raced in a long time. Certainly spent many, many years doing it. That doesn't mean I'm not going to the racetrack and letting go of the button, because I'm constantly messing around, going to testing tunes and different things with my truck that we call Dentley, my twin turbo truck. And so that has just turned into a passion project. And I've got a goal, which I reached, which was I wanted that truck to run in the 10s. And now I've the goal, obviously, being a drag racer. Now we want to go 9s. But, man, I still keep up with the bracket racing. I still, go and watch it when I can. And I love it. I mean, the racing now is so incredibly close that it's unbelievable. And, I mean, Spencer just talking about going all those rounds, and it takes perfection dang near every round now. You're not going to see a guy that makes his way to the final at Spring Fling, going 40 on the tree and one over. Those days are long gone.
Yeah, you got to be 15 total, meaning 00 and taking 00 and dead on and knowing your spot and knowing what you're doing and knowing what to take or not take and knowing your race car. And the more times you see the tree, the more times you let go, hit the bottom or hit the pro tree, the better you're going to be. Like you mentioned Dallas Glenn. Dallas is a pro stock world. Pro stock world is even tighter than Clay and I's world because, boy, let me tell you, those guys it's like bracket racing going 650s. So for Clay to come out, for Clay, well, he too, but for Dallas to come out to the Spring Fling and all the other bracket races with us, because heck, he's kind of my teammate when we go bracket racing because we're all friends with Dan Provo, and he owns Rad Torque Systems, and we have fun together doing that. And sometimes one time he's jumped in my dragster and Dallas needed a ride. So dude, get on in there, have fun. I don't care. I'm driving the Nova. And that's the way our family does out there. He jumps in Dan's car. He jumps in his father's car. He'll jump in Chris Coletti's car with Rad Torque tools and just have fun at doing what he does. And that makes him better when he goes back into NHRA and hits that tree and tries turning on them wind lights. And well, he did it in Vegas and he did that for Dan Provo.
Yeah, he had Get Well Dan on the back of his car the whole time, and Get Well Dan. What I marvel at, though, just a final point on the big money stuff, Clay, is the stamina, right? It's like you've got to be great over 15 hours. You know what I mean? It's not like a top fuel race or even an NHRA race in Super Gas or something. You might have to run 3 or 4 rounds back to back, and then you get like a break. Maybe you even get to go to bed. But at one of the big money bracket races, they're going until it's over, and sometimes it's like 2 a.m, and you have to pace yourself. Like, because the first round it'll be 6 hours, and then like 4 hours, and then 2 hours, and then all of a sudden the final few rounds all back to back. I know I'm not doing that. I mean, if I'm looking for a sponsorship for the Spring Fling in a couple of years, then maybe I could do it. But right now, I don't know.
Oh, I mean, it's just incredible, the amount of focus. I mean, you would think, well, it should be easy. You hop in the car, you're in there for, call it 5 minutes. And the actual process of it is, a minute and a half or whatever it is. But it is hard when you're talking about you need to do everything exactly the same and exactly perfect. And that's kind of what separates, the winners and the losers, especially in the big money bracket race world. The guys that can just zone in, like Spencer. And you hate to start calling names, but one person that I love watching who's a bottom bulb crusher is Nasty Nick Hastings. I mean, what he does is just unbelievable on that bottom bulb. So fun to watch him just do what he does.
And whoop up on all of us that has electronics and top bulb and delay box, everything. He's over there basically in a street car, not a street car, but he's just swapping feet and going 00 on the tree and killing everybody out there whenever he turns that wind light on.
I want to shout out to Gage Birch. I know he's had a great
Gage
run.
as well. Yeah.
Like numbers that are crazy. And I love this conversation because we're talking about Top Fuel, the pinnacle of acceleration racing, and bracket racing, something that anybody can really do. Anybody can really do it. you want to get the great equipment. I don't know if you want to enter a $2,000 to enter race right off the bat until you get some experience, but you could. And that's amazing. Guys, let's have a little fun with the 1,000th Top Fuel race. Garlett's 1963 Winter Nationals was the first. Do you know what year the 100th was? And I don't expect you to know this. Maybe you do, but maybe you don't. But I have the answers. I'm going to tell you. It's how many years did it take to get to 100, right? That kind of tells you a little bit about the schedule. Clay, any idea?
Man, I don't think they did that many races back then. So to get to the 100th, I'm going to say it took 10 years, maybe
a little more.
I was going to say maybe a little bit more than,
1979 for the first 100 races from 63 to 79. That tells you about the schedule. It was at the Mile High Nationals. It was Kelly Brown who won the race. He'll be there this weekend, right, Spence? You're going to probably be hanging out with these guys at autograph session. So it pays to know. 200 races came a little bit quicker. Inside of 10 years, it was 1987. Any idea who won the 200th race?
Where was it?
It was Dallas.
Dallas, Eddie Hill.
Oh, Eddie Hill. No.
Good guess. Good guess. But
Texas
that's wrong.
boy.
No, it's wrong. He's a Miami boy. That's why he's excited right now. Daryl Gwynn. The 200th race was Daryl Gwynn. All right. So you can see it moves a little quicker now. It was only like 6 years later for the 300th race, 1993. Clay, you might know this because you have a relationship with this person. It was the Columbus Spring Nationals in 1993. Any idea?
Columbus 93. Scott Coletta.
Spence, you want to guess?
For some reason, I want to say Herbert, but I'm not sure.
He nailed it.
Really?
Doug Zilla.
Wow.
Doug Herbert. Way to go, Spencer Massey. That's some random trivia right there. I did not tell these guys I was going to hit them with this, by the way. Everybody knows that. Let's see. Okay. The 400th win was in 1998. 1998, it was at the Mile High Nationals. It's weird how the Mile High Nationals are where these 100 milestones are happening. Any guess?
1998. Man, I'm going to say Doug Coletta.
Okay.
First year.
Not it.
Nope.
Man, I'm drawing I don't know. Bring it on with us, Joe.
Corey Mack.
Yep. Mack Attack.
The Mack Attack. All right. 500th win. 2002. Dallas. Clay, it was the Fall Nationals. Do you want to guess, Clay?
Tony Schumacher.
You should have said Doug Coletta.
Oh.
I went right back to it. Doug Coletta. Interestingly enough, Tony Schumacher has not won on any of the hundreds.
Wow.
That's a stat that has eluded him. All right, 600th win. It was 2007 Atlanta Southern Nationals. Who do you think?
I should know that. I won that race, I think.
2007 Atlanta Southern Nationals.
Yeah, I won that in a fuel car.
I'm going to say Corey Mack.
Well, I don't know. I was too busy partying, I guess, in the winner circle on my side.
This person might have been partying right alongside with you, Brandon Bernstein.
Bernstein. Okay, let me think about that.
Yes. Okay, 2011 NHRA Mile High Nationals, the 700th win. Any guesses, Clay?
What year?
He said it was 2011. It's this guy right next to you. Spencer Massey. Spencer Massey.
Won that. The old Fram car.
How about that?
Okay, the 800. Two more to go. 800th win. 2015 Carolina Nationals right here at this track that we're going to. Who was it?
2015.
Think about the year, the era. Who's popping at that time?
Yeah. I know I wasn't.
Me neither. 2015.
Here, I'll give you a little hint. Here comes a hint.
Hey, it's Antron Brown, driver of the Macro Tools Top Fuel Dragster, and yes, I'm a 3-time world champ. But you know what? When I win, I go straight to WFO Radio, baby. I want to see you listening in.
Look at you have that all keyed up, ready to go.
It's old, you can tell, because now a 4-time champ. Antron. And then the final one, 900. Any guesses?
It happened. Where was it?
It happened in Vegas. It happened in 2019.
Steve Torrence.
Yeah, I was going to say Steve Torrence. Yeah.
You guys like it. The only lady in the group, Brittany Force.
Brittany.
900.
Yep.
All that information provided by the NHRA Media Department. There you go. And you'll be doing autograph sessions with all those people, Spence. There's going to be a hero card special for this event. Kind of cool.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm very, very honored to be in that elite group of special people right there. And driving that Schumacher car back then with Todd Okahara was really awesome back then. I mean, we had a great car. I believe it or not, that race, we brought out a brand new car for that race. And the first run, Todd said, hey, take it as far as you want. You know, if something feels a little weird or whatever, it's our first run on the chassis, go ahead and click it off. I'm like, all right. Hit the gas, started going down through there. I'm like, it feels like a decent run. I'm running down through there. Yeah, we went #1 qualifier. Yeah.
Yeah, they tend to do it. Final question for you guys, like technical stuff. This air deflectors deal, Clay, and Spence, you're kind of, just coming into the middle of this deal, but you've been paying attention. Some people like David Grubnick says, John Collins, on behalf of the team, said that they're useless and they're pretty much off. Clay, people are using them as a tuning tool, right? If you need the downforce, you put them on. So it depends on the track and the situation. I like it because it's visible to the fans. Just as simple as that. This one's got it. That one doesn't. Something to talk about. Where's your head at on this as we go into the 1,000th race? And now we have a sitch with the air deflectors.
My first hang up with it, of course, everybody knows I'm a Tennessee boy and I live right on the Mississippi River. I still call them mud flaps. I know everybody, the big money people, they're like, oh, they're air deflectors. No, they're mud flaps. That's what I think they are. And I think it's a guessing game as to what they're doing because, you can't put a top fuel car in a wind tunnel and get any actual information. And we can't consistently make runs in a top fuel car in the same conditions over and over and over again. So on, off, I think the jury's still out and we've just left them on.
Spence, do you have a opinion? I mean, they were on the car at the start of your career. Snake, 90. Snake, a tie to Spencer Massey, by the way, gave you a big break. But now they're starting to come off.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me every time I see one, it looks like an alcohol dragster, an A fuel car, because they don't run them. Whenever I drove the cars, we didn't run them. We had an option to. I have a brand new set sitting right back on the other side of the building here to put on it, but we never did because we felt like it was going to cause too much drag. And whenever Ashley Forrest ran and Brittany ran the A fuel car, they had it, but I think it caused more drag for the A fuel car. They only make 4,000 horsepower. I say only, but it held them back a little bit. And it kind of goes, it could be the same over here in top fuel. Of course, we're making 11,000 horsepower, but boy, let me tell you, every little bit does count. And if we can get a little bit more air on the tire and maybe help cool it down so we can get through those spots or maybe not tear the tire up, that might be an advantage. But like you said, there's some tracks to where if it is bad out there and we need more downforce and I'm getting ready to hold that brake when we get out there, maybe we do need that downforce out there. I always said, heck, give me a lever in there. I can give it some more if I need it,
Gentlemen, thank you very much. I'm super excited about this weekend. Clay, congratulations on your Lucas Oil Winter Nationals win. Spence, obviously love having you back as often as you want to be back. And I think it's great that Krista can run the car and the team can get reps. And you picked a couple of races. In addition to this one, do you have a schedule planned with Krista that we can look forward to?
We're still kind of working on it. We're talking about possibly doing Chicago. I think that is the plan. Doing Bristol, doing Norwalk, and then let everybody go have fun on the Western Swing, and then we'll kind of gather it up. I don't know if we're going to do Indy or what, because it's her car. She can drive anytime she wants to drive. So I'm just excited to drive whenever I can, and whenever she lets me, and whenever the crew wants me to drive, that's when I'm available, and I'll do whatever it takes because I love driving these race cars.
That is awesome. No, we appreciate you coming on. And remember, guys, Spencer Massey plus 6,800 in top fuel in a 3-round drag race, 4 wide, where he doesn't have to get to the finish line first in the first 2 rounds.
That's right. So if you're out there and you can bet, you better put your money on this guy and that guy.
Yes. And Clay, long odds for Clay too, man. The guy just won a race 2 races ago. It's like 9-1, a little more than 9-1. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Thanks for spending time with us today. We'll see you this weekend.
Thank you, guys.
There you go. Spencer Massey. Clay, thank you so much. Clay Millican with us here on WFO Radio. Check out his YouTube channel. He's got over 100,000 subscribers. But it's possible that one of our guys is not a subscriber to Clay's channel. How great was that? 1,000 Top Fuel races, Spencer Massey, Clay Millican, just kind of cutting it up a little bit about the 100th. All right, my next guest is Jason Galvin. Speaking about cutting it up a little bit, we're going to get to Jason Galvin. We're going to talk about the 1,000th race and whatever else is on his mind. We're going to do all of that after this.
Redline oil, formulated to win, proven by me.
Redline oil, formulated to win.
Formulated to win.
Formulated to win, proven by me.
Formulated to win. Proven by me.
Proven by me.
Proven by me.
Redline oil, formulated to win, proven by me.
Looking to replace your OEM diesel particulate filter or diesel oxidation catalyst? Look no further than DPF XFit, a complete line of aftermarket diesel particulate filters and diesel oxidation catalysts designed as an exact fit OEM replacement with all makes coverage for light, medium, and heavy-duty trucks. With thousands of units in stock, we ship the same or next day, and be sure to check out our comprehensive reverse OEM lookup tool. Always new, never remanufactured. For more information, be sure to visit dpfxfit.com. That's dpfxfit.com.
I'm Steve Torrence, four-time NHRA Top Fuel World Champion. And when me and these Capco boys win races, we go straight WFO.
Oh, that's right. Steve Torrence going to be out there this weekend, the four-time world champion. Let's bring on, partner in crime, part of the NHRA track announcing team. He's been calling the action on Sundays, doing a great job, Mr. Jason Galvin. What's up, Jason? How are you?
What's up, Joe? I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I just had a great conversation with Spencer Massey and Clay Millican, and plus 6,800 for Spencer. What do you think of that? That's like my super lock, dig into the sheets, find every coin you possibly can, and just in case, put it on Spencer Massey.
Yeah, listen, I mean, you and I talked in Vegas, right? Like the thing about the four wides, and you said it there at the end of the interview, you've only got to get around one car or two cars. You don't have to get around all three of them to get to the finals, right? And so every four wide, there's always surprises in the finals, right? Matt Latino in Pro Stock gets there last week. Tony Stewart winning Top Fuel was probably not on many people's bingo cards, although you and I had talked about him early in the week in Las Vegas about his chances there. So
it was
Spencer's done really good at this race.
It was very obvious for those who can't come on. The guy runner up the last race. He's going to the four wide track where he had his first runner up to Matty, and then Matty Payne, and then he got his first win there. It was like the cosmos setting it up. The cosmic forces set it up to go back to Charlotte as the most recent race winner.
And this is a track that Cam Ferret had one of his best outings in a Top Fuel car, driving the Peyton car at this facility in a four wide. So there's a track record of, people making noise at this event. No question about it.
Yes. And the entry list for Top Fuel, kind of interesting. 18 cars in the Top Fuel list, but many of them are what we would call part-time cars. Spencer Massey is a part-time schedule car, but they are a full-time, operation. Like they know they're doing this on a regular basis. You got Scott Graham. Everybody knows their job. The equipment is already proven. They just bring it out every once in a while as needed. Some of the other cars you mentioned, Cam Ferret, Scott Farley, Lex June, and others. This race gives those teams a real opportunity to, go a round or two. Who knows?
Yeah, no question. And I have it on authority that Mike Booker will not be at the event, even though he's on the entry list. I have heard through the grapevine that the Leverage team actually is licensing a new driver at another track this weekend with hopes to get that licensing process complete. And maybe we'll see a new driver debut on the tour here in the next month or two. So that information came across this morning, but it still puts 17 cars on the list. So you got to qualify. And you mentioned, right, like Scott Farley, who has a car now that will go down the racetrack. And Todd Payton's coming back in a car that we know can go down the racetrack and go rounds. And Lex June, we're going to have, the bottom line is we're going to have a quad come round one of eliminations that's probably going to have two of what we would call part-time competitors in it, right? And that's going to really put the pressure on the other two cars, whoever those are, full-time cars, to go down the track in round one of eliminations. Because if you leave the door open, and you could have a window here where you get one or two of these part-time cars that just makes a run and they go 390 or they go 4 flat and somebody else smokes the tires or has an issue or pitches the blower belt at half track because they're spinning or whatever the problem is. And, you're going to get one or two of these cars that sneak through. And I think the converse side of that is because the bottom of the field is most likely to be kind of stacked with some of these cars, there's going to be that, that 4, 5, 11, 12 quad is going to be like one of those titanic matchups, right? Like you're going to get one of these situations where you get an Antron, a Justin, Tony Stewart, and like an Ida, right? And you're going to look at that quad and go, oh, okay. Like what do we do? What do we do now?
Quad of Doom. That's what Sunday mornings are for.
Your favorite thing.
My favorite thing, the algorithm, right? Very exciting. You mentioned Ida. Ida is back, but we do tackle the bad news here on WFO as well, and losing Jasmine. We talked about it a lot on Ignition. I don't expect that everybody has listened to Ignition just yet, but there was a lot of bummed people because she's finally getting there. She's finally getting there. They're getting to where they want to be, the promised land, the light at the end of the tunnel. They're there. They've made it. She's driving great. The team is running well. They're going to the semis nearly every race, and they're going to temporarily park the car. That is a bit of a bummer. Obviously, I can spend other people's money really easily, but it hurts. It hurts.
I had the real sad thing. I had this race kind of circled based on how that car's run in the early part of the season, and the success they have at the 4 wides, right? Jasmine getting down to the final 4 there. And this is a track that's been really good to that team over the years, right? You think back a year and a half ago, Mike Salinas was the first car to run 300 at the 8th at this facility. So it's a team and a race car that is comfortable at this track, that has had a lot of success at this track. And I was really disappointed when I heard that news. I understand it's not cheap to run these cars, right? And that's a team that's been looking for sponsorship for a long time. And I think there's probably a snippet there where Mike Salinas probably feels like, maybe they're not getting the respect that they deserve from a sponsorship standpoint. It's not easy to go out and find sponsors, but he has a driver who's young, marketable, personable, is doing a good job driving, and every week that car shows up at the track and it's got the family business on it. And that's also a family business that the Salinas family is deeply involved in operating, and not just Mike, right? Like that business stretches across, most of the girls work for Mike or in subdivisions of Mike's businesses there in Northern California. So I guess I understand where Mike's coming from with that, but it's tremendously disappointing, to your note, because that's a car that right now is it's another good event away from, being a top 3 or 4 car in points. If you come out to Charlotte and you finish in the final quad again, then you're going to leave Charlotte no worse than 4th in points if you're Jasmine Salinas. So, I think the person that I feel the worst for is her, because you could tell she's finally found her groove, right? And she was in the 70s on the tree all weekend in Las Vegas, was leaving on people, and I think really is feeling comfortable. And you could see, honestly, some of this probably explains, Joe, you and I talked about the emotion that she's been showing getting out of the race car, even in like what would be seemingly non-emotional moments, right? And now maybe you start to understand that, where like she was feeling that pressure, knowing that they'd probably already had a conversation. This is usually not a decision that you just make on the fly if you're a team like the Scrappers team, right? So they probably already had conversations that there's a good chance that we're going to take some races off here. And that had to be weighing on her, you would imagine.
Yeah, don't take this one off, though, right? Like Con says, light at the end of the tunnel was a freight train called finances. I don't know if that's the case. Mike is pretty good. This is what credit cards are for, guys. Like, come on. Every once in a while, you got to just take a flyer. Like, what if this is the race that she's going to win, and that's going to spark the sponsor, and it's going to save the season?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Charlotte is not the race that it was curious to me. Charlotte, Chicago, Epping were the races they named. Charlotte and Chicago would not be the races I would take off as a team owner. But it's not, like you said, I mean, you and I could sit here and spend everybody else's money all day. I just look at Charlotte and Chicago. They're great markets, not just for the NHRA, but for sponsors. I know that the average fan looks at Charlotte on a weekend and goes, wow, the attendance is terrible. It's because Bruton Smith built this mammoth facility, and
we'll get into that. We'll get into that.
It'd be great to pack both sides, but the truth of it is, Joe, you and I both know the actual body count that's at that track is a pretty good attendance base.
All right, so
Chicago's very good, and Chicago's the 3rd market in America, number 3 market in America. Like those are the races I would want to have. Like we talked about Tony Stewart, if he would have won at Pomona, right? You win in Los Angeles. That's such a big deal. If Jasmine goes to Chicago and wins, number 3 media market in the United States, huge deal, right? So, but again, like you said, you and I could sit here and spend other people's money all we want.
Well, maybe, like decisions don't have to necessarily be final. Like, maybe the trucks leave soon, right? They're ready. Who knows how ready they are? Change your mind.
Multiple teams are testing in Indy today. So teams are nowhere near leaving. Ida's testing today. I believe Antron's testing today. There's some other teams that are out there testing in Indianapolis today.
Very good. All right. So some people want to know about you, and I think it does occur to me. I believe this is your second appearance on WFO, maybe third. I don't know. But the BW show wants to know, Jason, how long have you been working for the NHRA? Let's do this. Give a little Jason Galvin background. I feel like you've been with the NHRA now like at least 4 years. Maybe 5, like the pandemic was part of it. In the pandemic, like you were coming online, Jason Galvin was coming online for a maybe first or second season, and the pandemic happened and it ruined everything. So you've been in the mix for much longer than 4 years, but I think this is your 4th year. But tell us, how long have you been working for the NHRA?
Yeah, the first time NHRA ever paid me to work an event was 2019. So, did a couple events in 2019. Had a tryout at the Winter Nationals, which was the first race of the year back then. And the first national event that I worked was Reading of 19. And I worked Reading, St. Louis, Vegas, Vegas, Pomona, end of the year. Went to a couple other races. I have pretty rich family ties to the sport. So like I went to Indy that year. I went to Sonoma, even though I didn't work it. Worked a handful of divisionals out here on the West Coast in Division 7. And then, to Joe's point, 2020 was on its way, and it wasn't going to quite be full-time I think we had 21 or 22 events then. It wasn't going to be every event, but it was going to be like 14 or 15. And I was the one person who got away with not flying all the way to Florida for the pandemic to cancel my weekend. Like I was walking onto the airplane on a jet bridge when Joe and I's boss called and said, are you on the plane? And I kid you not, was stepping a foot on. I said, I'm walking on. He said, turn around. And I looked at the flight attendant and said, sorry, I got to go, and turned around and walked off. And everybody else got on a plane and flew across the country to find out that planet Earth was closed for business. So
crazy.
And then that reset everything, right? Like we went through 2020, and I think I went to the first 2 races back in Indy, but I didn't go as an announcer necessarily. We didn't really send announcers. I don't even think you went to those. I went and did some like stuff out in the pits, marketing stuff, and then 21 came around and we kind of restarted, right? I think I worked like 5 races in 21, and in 22 worked 7 or 8 or 9 or something like that. And then 23 and 24, I went to pretty much every race. I missed like 1 race each year for something, personal related, but yeah. So this will be year 3 full-time, I guess you could call it.
That's great. Great news. There you go. BW show. And, Jason he's got a wealth of knowledge, doing a great job on the Sunday call, since it's occurring to me, like really, I had you on to kill time, Jason, but now it's occurring to
thanks,
me.
Joe.
You're very welcome. That like, hey man, like the update and the announced team. Obviously, our great personal friend Alan has gone on to be a vice president on the what he would call the I side of the universe, which has caused us to, modify the team. And we've got Freiberger and Courtney, who did a great job, and Jordan, and we've got this vast group of hardcore voices that are getting involved. How do you think it's going?
I think it's going good. Like, could we be better?
Right.
I think we
Good,
we could always be better,
Yeah.
All things considered, that change came together pretty late in the year. Like I think for as late in the year as everybody found out about it, it's not like we all knew about it for 4 months and we're sitting there sleeping on it, right? So
no, I found out right here. Like I found out right here. This is where
so
I
did
found.
I found out watching. So,
Yeah.
I think when you consider the amount of time that we had to kind of regroup and figure out what we were going to do and assemble a team, I really like what we've assembled, and everybody's finding their role. Look, David Freiberger is a brilliant, phenomenal car person who's never been a play-by-play or color commentator guy in his life, right? And it's totally different. Jordan Vandergriff is a great race car driver who is developing as an on-air personality, but last year was year 1. Like, I'm sorry, but being on The Bachelor doesn't count, right? Like, it's great life experience, but that's being on The Bachelor is not being a television reporter, right? You know, Courtney's obviously got her experience from Flow and the PDRA, and I thought did a great job last weekend. But Angel never done this before, right? We got some other people who are going to work in throughout the year that have never done that side of it before. So, and
but it's real though.
That
That's
the
what's
team
cool
that we
is
put
that
together.
it's rough. It's real. Like when you got someone asking it on like Angel's question of Blake, right? Like, okay, but it gave us a moment for us to like evaluate and see people in uncomfortable positions. Everything can't be perfect all the time. There's going to be moments. And so let's just enjoy the moments.
Yeah. And I mean, they're learning experiences, right? It's such a reactionary world. You know this, right? This is the world that we live in with social media, and there's so many positives to it. Your show being, I think, one of the great examples of that, right? You have this amazing ability to connect with our fans and to talk to them and interact and have them ask questions and really feel like they're part of this sport. And I think that's phenomenal. And there's not many sports that have the access to the racers that we have. And we say that all the time, but it's not just in the pits. It's stuff like this. It's stuff like WFO, where the racers will come on and sit here and take questions live from fans. And you're not getting that with, you know, the winner of Sunday's Cup race or the winner, you know, the quarterback of the winning team on Sunday Night Football. Like, he's not coming on a show on Monday to have a conversation with the fans about why he threw the interception on 3rd and 12, right? But your guys are going to come on here and they're going to talk about why they red lit, you know, 2 races ago, or why they double stepped, or how they won on a whole shot. And so that's the positive side of it. And the negative side of it is when you make big changes like we made, it gives everybody a voice to make gut reactions and, oh, here's what I would have done. And, you know, anybody can armchair quarterback that, but we're all going to learn from it. I think that's the big thing, right? Nobody's infallible on this team. I've made mistakes, probably more than the average fan would count this year. And I think that when you're a professional in this type of industry, that, you know, I bet Loans would tell you the same thing. Alan would have told you that. Joe will tell you that, I think, right? Like, you make mistakes and they probably weigh on you more than the average fan ever realized they happened. And you're sitting there beating yourself up over it. And sometimes you make big ones and you learn from it, right? I mean, like, we've all been there at Pomona World Finals. Like, I made a pretty big mistake at the World Finals. I think most people glossed over it. I was beating myself up. And Joe was the one who was like, forget about it. Everybody's forgotten already. And he was right. So, you know, it happens.
Well, Craig Gaultier likes it. Craig Gaultier says it's a young, refreshing group. I love listening to Jason, even when he calls me losing the final round in tennis.
It's okay, Craig. You get a chance to do over this year, right?
Yes.
Go to Ennis and go to the finals and win it this time, and then you can hear me call your winning run in the finals. So,
well, exactly. All right, let's talk a little funny car. Want to touch on multiple categories. Let's go quickly through the Mission Foods though, because, you know, we got Pro Stock Motorcycle is back. We got Pro Mod is back. I want to get the conversation going about those categories as well, so that they know, like, hey, we know that you guys are back, guys. It's a big deal. But points leader Paul Lee. If I told you that like 2 years ago, points leader Paul Lee, and they got a new sponsorship here this weekend, and they don't appear to be slowing down. Like, it's for real. Paul Lee and that team, Johnny Lindbergh, it's for real. This team is going to be a thorn in the sides of maybe the, you know, because they like to talk about buying used parts and whatnot, right? Like, this is a team that is gritty and determined.
Yeah, you look, I think you could have told me on the starting line in the final round of Seattle last year, when Paul Lee was lining up next to Austin Prock in his, you know, first final as a team owner, that Paul Lee would have been the funny car points leader after 4 events next year. And I probably would have laughed at you, you know, honestly. But I mean, that car, if you look at the last 6 events of last year, you know, really, if you go the last 8 or 9, if you count, you know, through the Western Swing, when they really started picking up, you know, they went to Indy and, you know, they didn't qualify. And I think not qualifying for the U.S. Nationals really caused a lot of people to forget that they also ran roughshod over the field in the call out, right? Like, they didn't qualify because Indy had hellacious weather, which it tends to do at that time of year. And Friday was Disneyland and the rest of the weekend sucked. And so if you missed it Friday, then you were pretty much in a position where you had to, like, back the car down as much as you possibly could and pray it, you know, held together and didn't throw the rods out before it got to the finish line to get in, which, I mean, look at the Coletta cars, case in point, right? Sean gets in, Doug gets bumped. So, you know, it wasn't just Paul Lee, but everybody wants to think back to that. Like, oh, Paul Lee didn't qualify at Indy. I'm like, yeah, they also won the call out, which was a big deal to me. And that was Paul's first, like, real win, right? He got a taste of winning in a tough field against championship caliber cars, and then they go to the final at Vegas at the end of the year, and they run really good at a bunch of other races down the stretch. So the writing's been on the wall. I'm not sure that this should really surprise anybody. Being the points leader is a little surprising. Johnny Lindbergh, shameless plug, is going to be the Nitro School guest Friday in Charlotte. So those fans that are coming Friday in Charlotte, 2:30. Got that locked down today. Very exciting. Yeah, look at that. And now they're going out and bringing a new. This is the one thing Paul Lee does not, I think, get enough credit for, right? Like, sure, a lot of these companies are partners, they're ancillary to his businesses, right? But like, Paul Lee is a brilliant businessman, and this is part of it. How many other teams are out there that have car owners that own companies and they can't go get, or they've just been unsuccessful so far in going out and getting the partners of their businesses to come in and invest in this sport and use their team as a funnel for growing the sport and bringing in new people. Paul Lee's been great at that. He's gone out and he's got partners of McLeod, partners of FTI, partners of Silver Sport to come out and partake in this, right? In a similar sense, like I think Randy Glady's been great with that with Skag. I think Eric Latino and Matt are doing a really good job with that. There are some people who just seem to struggle with that a little bit more. So, I mean, Paul Lee, like they're finding companies. The car runs good. Johnny Lindbergh is, I think, very low key. Maybe the most talented under 40 tuner in the sport. I mean, like he's really, really smart. And I don't think enough people give him credit for that. We're talking about a guy who came over here from Europe and basically single-handedly built, developed, tuned, and drove a top alcohol funny car that was dominant for back-to-back seasons, right? He's a really smart guy. And I don't think that car's going anywhere, Can they go pound for pound with Jack Beckman and Austin Prock for the entire season? We're going to find out. But I mean, guess who also couldn't go pound for pound with Jack and Austin for 20 events last year? Caps, Hagen, Tasca, I mean, everybody. So right now, that's the one car that seems like it can swing with them. And it's a great story. I think it's an awesome story.
I can't wait. Shout out to Steve Cole, by the way, SVP over there, bringing on business development and great stuff. Real excited about it. Okay, let's, we'll do positive story, negative story, right? Bob Tasca, tough couple of races. I'm not worried. Tasca is, he's been in the Valley before, but it's been a tough couple races back to back.
Yeah. Well, Pomona was hard, right? I mean, that was the second quickest field in funny car history. And, and they just missed it in the final run. It was, spinning the tires and didn't get to the finish line under full power. And that kept them from getting in the field. And, cost us our first 3-second field too. Phil Burgess had a great article, I thought, on NHRA.com. Either late last week or earlier this past week, that kind of broke down the quest for a 3-second funny car field. I really enjoyed reading that and the research he put in. And then look, Vegas, I don't know what happened there. I don't proclaim to be a crew chief or a car chief on a Nitro car. I think I understand enough about them to, have a serious conversation about the cars, but it certainly appeared to me like they had a bigger problem than just, the car went over center and got hung up in, neutral, right? Like the way that it locked up out there and then they got it free and then it locked up again in the water box and caused that delay. Like that screamed to me of some sort of, issue that, assembly, whatever parts, whatever it was. And so that's a frustrating back-to-back event for Bob, no question about it. But would anybody else be shocked at all if Bob Tasca came out this weekend and was number one qualifier and won the 4 wides in Charlotte? Because I wouldn't be. I mean, that car's got everything it needs. And Bob's a, championship caliber driver. And Aaron Brooks and Todd Okuhara have done a great job with that car over the last couple of years. So minor hiccups, right? I mean, they talked about rough patch, but like
you got to go in the Valley.
You know where that's a real opportunity, Joe? His play NHRA odds are going to get, longer and longer, and that's going to be an opportunity for somebody. I see you going to the paper. I was going to the spreadsheet.
I got papers everywhere. Like there's 5,000 papers here, and to play NHRA odds.
Bob Tasca the third plus 1,100 this weekend. See, even Vegas doesn't think it's a big deal. He's 4th favorite in funny car behind Prock, Beckman, and Lee. So incredible.
All right, everybody's asking about Life's a Drag. There's a bunch of people asking about the insiders, like Nicole Clark wants to know, will there be any more Life's a Drag podcasts from the Jasons?
It is in discussion. There are actually multiple things in discussion there, and I'll leave it there.
Just leave it there, right? But I wanted to ask the question because people are putting the question. in the question area. And so we ask all the questions, guys. We ask all the questions of folks. All right, Pro Stock. You know, Greg Anderson show, going to Charlotte, home of HendrickCars.com. And to
defending
me, defending event champion. Like this is a race that if anybody can knock off Greg Anderson, I know he just lost in the final round, which is going to make him angry. I don't know, man. I feel like Greg Anderson is an odds-on favorite this week.
Yeah. Well, and especially, if you look at, Mother Nature doesn't appear like she's going to fully cooperate with us this weekend. And I tend to think that actually hurts the elite cars even more so, right? Like we've seen the elite cars struggle, and the KB cars have come out and almost universally just thrown down session one across the board, right? The elite cars have needed some time, even when they have gotten them going, even when, a Christian Quadra or an Aaron Stanfield or a Jeg makes a good enough run to move up into the top half of the field and look, quasi-competitive right now. It hasn't been first run out of the box, and the KB cars have been. And so if we're in a situation where, qualifying gets cut down at all, I think that's just even more advantage the team that has everything going for it, not the team that is still trying to find itself with some of the changes in the off season. And I think to your point, Joe, he's the defending event champion. It's Rick Hendrick's backyard. It's the team's backyard. Greg's lived here for 25 years now. This is absolutely Greg Anderson's race to lose. And the thing that's been flying under the radar too, Greg Anderson is driving maybe as good as he ever has in his entire career. And if you stop and think about that, the man is the winningest driver in Pro Stock history. But, Greg's a guy who last year, early in the year, even when he won this event, he was living in the, 40s, 50s on the tree every week and lost a lot of races because he wasn't quick enough off the clutch pedal, and won some races because the car was just badass, right? Like that car was probably pound for pound the best car in Pro Stock all of last year. But Greg would probably tell you he wasn't driving it to the level that Dallas Glenn and Aaron Stanfield did for most of the year. But I don't know what fountain of youth Greg Anderson found, post St. Louis last year. But post St. Louis last year, Greg Anderson has been as good as anybody in the class driving the race car.
Yeah, it's amazing to think about that final round streak that they've got going until St. Louis last year. That's insane. Michael Heiner, who does a show for us for the Patreons, a secret show, I rarely make clips of that show because the people who pay to be behind the paywall, Patreon, they get angry that people get to see it for free, right? So I definitely don't do it. But I had to make a clip of that one where Heiner said, and it's in our feed, guys, that when Greg knows he's got the car to beat, it makes him 10 times better as a driver. He's able to summon that skill when he knows he's got the car to beat. It's like something triggers inside him. That's Heiner, who's known this guy for his whole, Pro Stock career. And it's been obvious on the track. And so we'll see, even in the final round in Vegas, like the car had some sort of an engine problem, according to Dallas in the media center, but Greg had the reaction time to beat him. So we'll just have to see. I do want to shout out, speaking of Michael Heiner, they won this race a couple of years ago. Get Biofuel team could resummon that energy.
Sure.
Hartford has had a very fast race car, shockingly fast. And if I'm those guys, I want to get on the board. I want to get on the board here and stop being the team that's got a really fast car and be a team that has won a race. Hartford sneaking up on it.
Since Phoenix, Matt Hartford's car has been pound for pound as good as Greg Anderson, Dallas Glenn's car. And Matt's driving has not been there. And it wasn't there last year either, but it was explainable. But I really felt like Vegas, he started to find his groove again. There were some rounds where he was on time. There were some rounds where he was first off the starting line. The final got away from him a little bit. And it cost him the race, right? He was the best car in the final round. He should have won the event. And Matt would be the first one to tell you that. But there's no question that he is finding his groove again. And I think that should probably worry Pro Stock, right? If you look at how Matt Hartford drove 2 years ago, for the majority of the season, there was a point in time where I think the world championship was Matt Hartford's to lose there towards the end of 2023. So, that car's really good right now. It came out of the box in Phoenix and, shot right to the top at his home track, and it came out in Pomona and they won the Too Fast, Too Tasty challenge. And it was the most consistent car in Vegas alongside Greg Anderson's car as well. They've figured it out again. and it's good for the class, right? I mean, honestly, I think I realize there's the KB elite thing, but I think it's best for the class when you have Hartford and you have Derek, and if we can get Brandon Foster, who's in a similar situation, right, where he's leasing Elite Motorsports, basically drivetrains, but Jim and Jamie are doing everything, just like Mike Heiner does for Derek Kramer and just like Eddie Renaccia does for Matt Hartford, right? If we can get the three of those cars consistently going rounds, winning some races, mixing it up, I think that's what's best for the class, right? Everybody complains about KB's got 6 cars and Elite's got 9 cars or whatever the numbers are or whatnot. Well, if we get those 3 cars, like, yeah, so they're getting the power from them. Big deal. I mean, half the Nitro field was buying, short blocks from Allen or DSR, right? And we didn't all complain that, well, DSR's got a motor in the final round, right? Like, so I think it's good. I think it's great for the class, honestly.
That's funny to think about it like that. And it's just that pro stock fans are connected to manufacturers in ways I guess the Nitro cars haven't been for many years. But people got to get over that, man. Enough. Like, let it go. Let it go. Yeah. Like, just be happy that you've got drivers that are shifting gears and hitting the RPM to the exact number and winning and losing the races because of their ability. Like, just focus in on that. If you're an angry Bob Glidden fan that wants to go back to the 80s, I'm sorry, like, it's not coming back. It's just not. Right. Although Clinton F might tell you otherwise, that there could be a Ford Pro Stocker, but I just don't see.
And that would be great. I would love to see Clint's Ford Pro Stock deal come together, right? But otherwise, you're right. And also, you and I talk about this, right? But we can go back to the 80s and like, oh man, there were 30 cars and it was great. They had a Lenko in it and there were 7 manufactured. Like, yes. And Bob Glidden had 3/10 on the number 2 qualifier.
Yeah, exactly. And a bunch of those manufacturers were all General Motors cars because he had a Buick and you had a Pontiac and you had a Chevy and you had an Oldsmobile, but they were all running the same engine anyway for the most part. Whatever. It is what it is. Pro stock is always going to be a slightly more refined taste than the 330 mile per hour Nitro car. Speaking of which, Pro Stock Motorcycle is back. Yeah. Gage Herrera was on the starting line. I was desperate to work in an opportunity to interview Gage on the starting line out there in Vegas, and it just didn't work out. Sorry, Gage. But they are back. Matt Smith, Gage Herrera, where we last left off, I kind of felt like we had achieved some level of parity. I did notice the entry list had a man named Gerald Savoy. What do you know about that? Is that for real? Is that for real?
I've heard it is.
That would be wonderful. Like, that guy, like, of the people that I miss, just like seeing him, I just miss seeing Jerry. I don't care about the racing, but he's always had something positive to say. Great smile,
great guy,
good person, great guy. I really hope that that's the real deal.
Yeah, Jerry's a great guy, right? I mean, obviously world championship rider, but just a cool human, right? Everybody talks about the alligator farming, right? But like, just go spend 10 minutes with Jerry Savoy, like, positive, funny, outgoing guy. And he loves the sport. He loves pro stock motorcycle. And he said when he stepped away from full-time riding that he wasn't going to be gone forever, that he would make appearances here and there. And, hopefully this weekend's an opportunity for him to do it and be successful. But I'm with you, Joe. I left Gainesville thinking to myself, pro stock motorcycle is, at least for the time being, pretty wide open. And I'll be most curious to see how that parity that we appear to have achieved a little bit, at least among Matt and Gage, right? I mean, did we achieve parity, or did Matt just get a little even with Gage and the two of them are a half mile ahead of everybody else? I kind of feel like Matt and Gage. What was that?
That's what's happening.
Right. Matt caught up to Gage a little, and the two of them have yarded everybody else, is kind of what it feels like. But I also think because of that, there's this great battle for, who's the third best bike right now? Is it Angie? Is it John Hall? Is it Richard Gadsden? Is it Chase Van Zandt? Like, you could make an argument for any one of them right now. I feel like Gianna, got more comfortable on that bike last year and can certainly run right there with them as well. So, and in a 4-wide situation, motorcycles especially, all sorts of crazy stuff happens with those bikes, right? And little things on the starting line, rocking back out of the beams and stuff like that. Stuff that in a 4-wide situation can really sneak up on you and cause some calamity on the starting line. So I think it makes this race really interesting for the motorcycles. I wish they ran Vegas just so we could see them run 4-wide a couple of times, but thanks to Charlotte and the countdown, now we'll get to see them run 4-wide a couple of times. And I think that's exciting because it just really changes up the motorcycle class. But I'll be most curious, I think, on pro stock motorcycle when we get to like Chicago, if it's warmer, if it's 87 on Saturday or 90 on Sunday, which I hope it's not that warm for the fans' sakes, but when we get into warmer temperatures, I think will tell us more about motorcycles. Gainesville was Disneyland, and I think that's the easy thing to forget, right? Motorcycles naturally aspirated. I mean, Pro Stock Kart set the world record, Bellomir's injected nitro car ran crazy numbers, right? Like even crazier than the weekend before. Because the air was just so good. And, comp eliminator cars were like shutting down at 1,000 feet to go 8 under. So it's going to be not quite Disneyland at Charlotte, but the weather's still going to be very favorable from a horsepower making standpoint, I think, based on what we're seeing. I don't think it's going to be like, oh my gosh, but it's, if it's in the low 70s when they run with some cloud cover, then that's certainly better than being 88 and sunny. And so, I think we'll learn a little bit about Pro Stock Motorcycle this weekend. I'd also have to imagine there's been quite a bit of testing done. And remember the fuel, right? Like we've talked about, Elite Motorsports thinks that, there's something to the fuel that KB has figured out, not in a, negative fashion, just KB has figured out how to tune the car to the fuel better than maybe Elite has at this point. I think that the motorcycles, like the fuel was a huge story last year, right? It was like all we heard about for the first half of the year was the fuel and the differences in the fuel. Well, we switched fuel manufacturers in the off season, and VP is now the official fuel, and everybody's running the same fuel. So who got more testing done? Who got more dyno work done? And who learned more? Was it Vance and Hines? Was it, the White Alligator guys and Tim Kalenshian? Was it Matt Smith and his team? And that, to me, I think will be the real interesting thing to watch this weekend in motorcycle.
Very exciting. I'm happy to have the bikes back. We're going to have a lot of action, wide to 4 wide races. Like we're adding a bunch of categories with Pro Mod, Congruity Pro Mod returning. Mike Stavrinos, the quest for the perfect season. The perfect season. I'm putting undue pressure on Mike, but he's got 20% already in the books. It's only a 10-race season. Might as well talk about it. This guy has won the first 2 races of the year. And as someone who has, dreamed of this opportunity, he ran some last year, but he's running a full year. He's running for a championship to have the points lead, 234 over 183 over Tricky Ricky, who's going to be running the home race. It's a great story in Congruity Pro Mod.
Yeah. And Mike's one of those, new faces that can really help that class grow, right? I mean, he ran last year, but, this is his first real taste of success on the NHRA tour, winning those, back-to-back races that we finished in Phoenix. And, young guy, personable, kind of new on the scene. I think anytime you can add somebody like that to the mix and they can be successful, it's a great thing for the class. And the Pro Mod class is growing, right? We're seeing new drivers come into it. The Randy Couture announcement.
What do you think about that? Because you're Randy. It's funny because I was a little jealous you got to do the Patty Lowe interview, but that's fine. And I get to do the Randy Couture interview, which I know you're a big fan. And I'm just thinking if this could become the place where high level physical competitors come in their golden years to get the competition, satiated, we could be into something big here in drag racing.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think, I don't want to say Randy Couture is a household name, but he's as close to a household name as men's mixed martial arts has ever had, I would say, right? Like, Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano kind of bridged that gap because they became movie stars and TV stars and whatnot. But I mean, Randy Couture and Chuck Liddell, like they literally put the UFC on the map, right? Hardcore UFC fans can think of some earlier fights than that. But the two people who really, like, UFC was growing and it had built this thing, and then here came this rivalry between Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture, and it blew the sport up in a huge way. And, that's been, 15 plus years now, but look what the UFC has become. I mean, it blew past boxing, which, boxing enthusiasts and hardcore people would have, literally laughed at 15 years ago. They would have never in their life believed that, the Ultimate Fighting Championship could be bigger than boxing. And now boxing, like, has to schedule its world around what the UFC is doing, unless it's like Floyd Mayweather. So you've got one guy, right? But Randy Couture is a huge name, and he's gone on and he's acted, right? And he's been in big, $100 million motion pictures, and he's created these TV shows, and he's got successful businesses on the side, which I don't think a lot of people realize. He's a very good businessman with gyms and whatnot as well. And he's kind of fallen head over heels with the sport of drag racing. I think it's phenomenal. I don't know if Pro Mod is the class I would have started in.
That is a big question. So Randy's going to come on the show. He's going to Frank Hawley's drag racing school. He's going to go through the process. So I felt really good about that. But yeah, Pro Mod, it's some serious drag racing.
Great for the class.
Yes.
It's so good for the class, right? This is that deal. So many fans are like, when is Pro Mod going to be a pro class? And like, Pro Mod's never going to run 20 races. I mean, I don't know. I shouldn't say never, right? Like
they didn't want to. They've been offered the opportunity. They don't want to. They can't. They've got businesses. They're business people.
Correct.
I'll tell you, Mike Stavrinos, who is, I've gotten to know Mike and his wife Cammie because they are local here in South Florida, Speed and Truck World. They can't do that. They can barely do this. They are running their business. They're cutting decals for people's trucks. They're working. They're like literally working. They're not like telling somebody to work. Like, hey, Roger, go do this, go do that while I hit the practice tree. They are literally working. And if they're not there to work, then there's no money and there's no business and there's no racing. That describes a lot of our Pro Mod competitors.
Yes.
They're literally working. And so 10 races fits perfectly. So that's what it's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, Jason Scruggs can't even run 10 races because him and Mitchell are out on the farm, picking and pulling and riding tractors and stuff like that.
Yeah, they got like 400 million acres. It's a slightly different example, but your point is well taken.
Right. So yeah, I think I think 10's a really good fit for Pro Mod. And I think the Randy Couture story will become just a really fascinating story to follow. And much in the sense that Tony Stewart was great for this sport because he made it mainstream and he made non-racing outlets pay attention and pick it up, or non-NHRA outlets pay attention and pick it up. There's an entire world of extreme sports fans, UFC fans, has very similar parallels, I think, to the NHRA when you think about stylistically, right? Boxing is NASCAR and the UFC is the NHRA, right? It's 3 5-minute rounds, it's 15-second knockouts. People live for that flash, that moment, that quick submission, the right hook nobody saw coming, the flying knee, right? And like, what are we in the NHRA? Like, people live for the record-breaking run that came out of nowhere, or the explosions, or the car that gets squirrely and the driver drives through it and saves it and wins an incredible round. Like, people live for that 5 seconds in a Pro Mod, those 3 seconds in a Nitro car. That's why we do what we do, is for that short burst of time to have these incredible moments. And so I think there's a potential for a lot of crossover there to introduce our sport to new fans.
I agree. And it's just it's as simple as keywords and bots and computers. Like Randy Couture, his name starts popping up and those bots start scanning each other and they start serving it up. It's as simple as that. I see it with Tony and Leah and these, I'll call them ridiculous gossip sites, but they're using their story with totally fake stuff, right? But they're generating clicks with fake Tony and Leah's stories about, Tony and Leah are at odds about her return and just stuff that's like, but it doesn't matter.
Netflix documentary coming. That's my favorite one I'm seeing now. Breaking news to all you fans out there. No, there is not a Netflix documentary coming.
Too bad. There should be.
And no matter how many times that you open Facebook and see that story, it's still not coming. But good news, there is a documentary in the work. There's a multi-part documentary. It's not Netflix though. Okay. But very exciting. There's some great stuff coming for next year. I know Brian's alluded to a little bit on the Insider podcast as well. There's some really cool things the NHRA media and TV team are working on for the 75-year anniversary of NHRA next year that includes some just incredible documentary stuff. But it's not Netflix, and it's not John Force, and it's not Shirley Muldowney and Don Perdome. Okay, like the crazy stuff that I read on the internet these days. But to your point, like, that's only a thing because more people are talking about the sport now and more people are clicking on it, right? Those little bot things don't care if nobody is going to read it, right? Like they're going to go off and write a story about, Kyle Larson and, Joseph Newgarden, right? Like if they're writing stories about the NHRA, like it sucks that we got to navigate through what's true and false in that world, but also it means we're relevant. To me, that's a big deal.
Huge. This guy says we do need a Netflix documentary. Like anything on Netflix would be cool, but who knows? We'll let that all play out. All right. So Mountain Motor Pro Stock, Factory X, Factory Showdown. We got all of that coming. It's going to be a great weekend. Just give us a final thought on zMAX in Charlotte.
Yeah, I'm excited. The four wide format has its lovers and haters, obviously. And I certainly understand the traditionalist standpoint of it. I'm a traditional hardcore drag racing fan. I grew up around the sport my entire life, right? But I also I try to look at it from a positive side of things, and that it's unique and it's challenging. It really is. It's very different for the racers, for the tuners. You hear them talk about it. It doesn't mean that they love it, but it's different. And I think different is cool in small doses, right? And so here we are. We've got this different stretch of the season. This is our Bristol dirt. This is our, street course versus a road course. This is, however you want to look at it. This is that stretch of the year. And so it's an opportunity for some new stars to emerge, for some people to have an opportunity to win a race that maybe wouldn't have that opportunity at a two-wide event, right? When you've got to go mano a mano and beat one car. And I realize that's what drag racing was built on, and everybody wants to talk about that. But also drag racing wasn't built on 890 indexes. And I happen to think Super Comp and Super Gas is super exciting too, right? It's all about the perspective and how you want to, view it, which lens you want to view it through. So I'm excited. I hope that Mother Nature is nicer to us than she's attempting to be right now, at least on the early projections there. It's a busy weekend, to your point, right? We're bringing all these classes back. I mean, we run every Lucas category from Super Street through the alcohol cars, and every single category that competes in NHRA competition except for Top
Super Street, man. Let me tell you,
right?
Jason, you called me the other day and you're like, Joe, get your car.
I tried to talk you into it.
And you did. I'm all ready to go until I saw the weather, Jason. And I can't tell all the way from Florida to Charlotte with the inclement weather. But I was ready. We were ready to unload Project Pontiac. We were ready to go up there and take the Wally. But unfortunately, it's not going to happen. It's a bit of a bummer.
Yeah. Your national event debut will just have to wait till July.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it all goes. I got to pull the converter out of the car. Like we got to let the folks at FTI make like a minor adjustment, loosen that thing up a little bit to make the car absolutely perfect. But
I have a connection at FTI that I could talk to try to expedite that and make sure that you're good to go for July.
Yeah, they are not the problem. This guy is the problem. Getting it out, right? Like that's the problem. But Jason, great job as usual. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe.
I'm real excited about the weekend and the rest of the season. We're going to be busy over the next few weeks as things really begin to heat up figuratively and literally. And this season could go in a whole bunch of different directions. So I appreciate your opinion and your take as we get ready for the 1,000th Top Fuel race. Yeah,
it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward. There's some really cool things coming this weekend too, with the 1,000th race, like things that we've not announced yet, but I think the fans. Why
don't you just tell us? Why don't you just tell us what they are? You won't be in any kind of trouble.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Let's just put it this way.
Tell us just one.
I wouldn't miss Sunday post race in Top Fuel. How about that?
Okay. Oh,
there's my teaser.
That's a good tease right there.
I wouldn't miss, like, when Top Fuel goes across the finish line and whoever wins, don't click off. You're going to want to hang around for post race interview and all of that stuff. If you're watching on NHRA.TV, stay tuned.
There you go. Jason Galvin, good tease. Well executed tease. Thank you very much. All right, brother. I'll see you soon.
All right, Joe. Safe travels.
There he goes. Jason Galvin with us here on WFO Radio. Good stuff. Spencer Massey, Clay Millican, Jason Galvin, Charlotte. What I would tell you, and we talked about it on the Ignition show, is that this is the most convenient race to go to. And I will give you all of that detail. But I ask you to stick with me for a few minutes so I can tell you about the people who make it literally possible for me to do this show, like Marvin Rodak and Rodak'sCoffeeandGrills.com. This is coffee, guys. Like, if you love coffee, everybody loves coffee. They go to their local store and they get a cup of coffee. Get yourself a bag of coffee, full bean, grind it yourself, and really live your life for the first time. 817-924-6821. No joke. Marvin Rodak has the best coffee from around the world. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, if it's good enough for Randy Couture, right? They've got the Dragster Adventure program where you can drive a dragster. You don't have to go through the licensing program. That maybe is a step up. But as far as experience a dragster, they let you do it. And they travel around the country and they come to you. It makes a great gift. You and your friend, you and your sales team, you and your best clients. Go out there and do a day experience with Frank Hawley driving dragsters. Go to frankhawley.com to find out more information. Fog It. This is Gary Stinnett's company. It's a spray to protect the valuable inside of your racing engine from corrosion that happens when the engine is not running. It's kind of the opposite, right? Like it pickles the inside of the racing engine and protects from corrosion, from rust, from microscopic, like the remnant of the combustion process mixed with water becomes sulfuric acid, and it destroys the cylinder finish. It's just that simple. Valve seats. So you spray it with Foggit, and it prevents all of that. Except Foggit is useful for 100 other things. And that's why you got to get a can. Get it at summit-racingequipment.com. Order yourself a can of Foggit. Bernie's Speed Shop, BURNYZZ.com. This is Josh Hart's company, Bernie's. Go to their social media. That's all I ask you to do. Like, that's my job, is for you to go check out their social media and follow. And you'll see all the amazing things that they are doing at Bernie's with like high-level frame-off restorations, unbelievable award-winning cars. They're buying and selling on consignment. So if you're looking for your next exotic or muscle car, you can get it there. Or if you've got one, a future barn find that your grandkids are going to offload for like pennies on the dollar for what it's worth, maybe you should let Josh and the guys at Bernie's sell it. Everybody's nightmare, right? That their kids is going to not know the value of their amazing stuff that they've collected over all these years. It's so true. It happens. Bernie's, BURNYZZ.com. Check them out. HusseyPerformance.net. David Allen and the team. They got a new number, but same great business. 412-716-4872. If you need copperhead gaskets, well, they're the obvious choice, but they're not just copper anymore. They make gaskets for everything, and they can make them exceptionally quick and ship them out the door. And that's where I found myself. I damaged a header gasket for Project Pontiac. I texted David Allen. He said, what? Next thing you know, a day later, they're there. And that's what's on the car. And that kind of customer service, you can't beat it. HusseyPerformance.net, Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. They did not have to move their production back to the United States of America because they never left. They were doing it right the entire time. Check them out, HusseyPerformance.net. Appreciate those guys. Of course, FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters, Total Seal Piston Rings, Jesse Converters. You've heard about these guys, big supporters of WFO Radio. Shout out to our friends at CWT Industries, Balance Machines for machine shops. It's just that simple. And Redline Synthetic Oil. Now, maybe you don't need Redline Synthetic Oil right now for your race car or your street car or your BMW or gear oil or transmission, like whatever. But you can all go get a bottle of water wetter for your cooling system. And it's a great way. We'll be learning a lot more about Redline Synthetic Oil as the show goes on. Patreon, these are the members. The Hear It From Heiner show, Michael Heiner. You definitely want to check this out if you like Pro Stock and the naturally aspirated classes. But Heiner is a race-winning crew chief who's extremely knowledgeable, who is teaching you how to think, like how he thinks about this process, knowing that you got to go up against Greg Anderson and what's it going to take to go out there and compete. Really high-level conversation happening on the Hear It From Heiner show. Patreon.com/WFO Radio. And, of course, some WFO merch, baby. Get yourself some merch, including the Project Pontiac stuff, which has started to take off. Project Pontiac, the shirt looks like this. But it's really been amazing to see people rocking it. Also want to shout out to our friends at Wright Trailers. Yeah, we got a lot of sponsors on this show. Let's see what everybody's got to say out there. As you queue up your comments, I will tell you why I believe that zMAX Dragway is the most convenient race on the tour. As a fly-to race, of course, we're going to have all our NASCAR people out there. I'm hearing a huge weekend for NASCAR-related celebrities. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But with Tony Stewart having won the race in Vegas, suddenly, if you've got any kind of connection to Tony Stewart, if you're a friend or family member or former worker-employee relationship of any kind, you're not going to see him race. You're going to see him with a legitimate chance of winning the race, which is a totally different motivational factor. So I'm very excited to see if there's a Tony Stewart bump. Yes, Mon Nature throwing us a bit of a curveball. I'm hoping that that's not an issue. When it comes to flying into Charlotte, it's one of my favorite races. For me, it's an hour and 40-minute flight, so it's not really terrible. Going to Arizona, going to Pomona, going to Vegas, those have all been long flights. Finally, they get short. We're back on the East Coast for me. But that's not really the best part about it. The rental car center is at the airport. You do not have to take a tram or a shuttle. You just walk out and get into your rental car. That is so valuable, convenience-wise. So now you're in your rental car. From the gate, from the jetway to the rental car, it's less than 10 minutes. You're in the rental car very rapidly. The distance from the rental car to your hotel is probably about 15 minutes. A very short drive. And the distance from the hotel to the track could be as little as 2 minutes. For me, it's about 8 minutes. So everything is within 20 minutes. 25 minutes if there's traffic. It's so convenient. The track, you could actually go back to your hotel and get something or hang out for a little bit between rounds. That's how close it is. I don't recommend doing that. I'm just saying you could if you wanted to. There's restaurants and hotels all around the track on Bruton Smith Boulevard. You don't have to go anywhere. And then there's the old, it's massive. And I told Jason we were going to talk about this, but then we never did because we got so deep into the conversation about drag racing. But zMAX Dragway is definitely overbuilt. It's a much bigger facility than it needed to be because it's the dream of Bruton Smith. You may recall the city there didn't want the track and Bruton Smith had to really make it happen. And when he made it happen, he built a spectacle, the Bellagio of drag strips. So it's bigger and has more capacity than you could ever imagine. It's massive. But in the end, there are races that are sold out on the NHRA tour, big races that have fewer people at them than zMAX Dragway. And so what do you want? You want every seat filled or do you want capacity? Because they've got the capacity. They've got people there. It's just they built a giant canyon of seats. And so what do? Well, you got to make lemonade out of lemons. And just be happy that you don't have to be shoulder to shoulder with some smelly person. You could get a spot. Your seat's here. You move over there. There's no one around you. You've got VIP. You've got your own box. You've got your own area. You got to spread out and watch drag racing. And the same is true throughout the pit area. Instead of saying, man, I wish there was 65,000 people here and we were walking through the pits like it's Gainesville. Enjoy the fact that it isn't. And you're getting Mountain Motor Pro Stock and you're getting Pro Modified and Pro Stock Motorcycle and all these great categories are all going to be racing there 4-wide. It's going to be great. I am super excited. And I always want to advocate for zMAX Dragway. I was wearing my inaugural shirt the other day because don't forget, in an era where we have to preserve every single drag strip, this is a relatively new super drag strip. And so we should appreciate all the effort that went into it. All right, let's see what some of the comments are in the comment section. This one was, this is Blake, who is weighing in. He's got his new YouTube channel going on. You can follow Jason Galvin on Twitter. He's definitely on Twitter. Steven says, I always stay for the whole thing. That's the way to go. Even on NHRA.TV, like you got to watch to the very end for those final interviews. Like the NHRA.TV folks get a great show. Keith wants my Christmas tree. You're not getting it, Keith. I'm sorry. That is the starting line Christmas tree for Miami Hollywood Speedway. You go back and see those Don Garlitz, Grumpy Jenkins, Mellow Yellow commercials filmed at Miami Hollywood Speedway. That's the tree that was in the commercials. This is a genuine article of drag racing history. I don't have tons of them. I've got a couple, but that one is like a Christmas tree off the starting line of a classic track where Jungle Jim raced. Jungle Jim hit that tree, like reacted to it. Garlitz reacted to it. It's insanity that it's even here. It's a miracle. So yeah, no, nobody's getting that. Now, maybe when I pass away, whoever I leave it to will sell it to somebody for pennies on the dollar because they have no idea what it is or what it's worth. Yeah, there's this light thing. You want it? $50. This has been a fun episode. Thanks, Joe, and sponsors. Thank you, Mary. Yes, thanks to the sponsors. You guys, without them, we would not be able to do this show. Patreons, too. Gotta love my Patreons, guys. Sad to hear about the weather forecast. Yet another great WFO show. Great show as always. Good show, says Montana Karting. Fast Eddie. How about this guy? I'm real proud of this guy. I want you all to know about Fast Eddie. When's the next secret Hear from Heiner show? Well, Michael Heiner and I are scheduled to talk later today. So hopefully there will be another Secret Heiner show coming up later today. This guy, Fast Eddie, forget about Michael Heiner and that show. Let's talk a little bit about Fast Eddie going bracket racing in Sportsman with his Mustang and winning in his first outing. First outing. This guy goes out there. And I'm so proud about the WFO universe, this audience of people, because, yes, they watch and listen to the show and hopefully share it. That's really the most important thing to do. Share the show, guys. But they are a crew of doers, and they hear people are doing stuff on the show and they want to go do stuff also. And they are getting involved, going out there racing. So congratulations, Eddie, on your win. Tremendous. Hey, look at this. Taylor Chemiskey. Great show, Joe. I saw a comment earlier about Rick Ware Racing should bring on a pro stock team. Clay, I'm in. Let's stomp on that loud pedal. Taylor, I would love that to be true. I don't know. I do think we need more pro stock cars out there. You got a guy, Taylor, you got to go find somebody. Because Taylor, I believe in your talents and abilities greatly. Won back-to-back comp races in Vegas. You got to find a team that's got an extra car, that's looking to spend some money and mix it up, that's ready to expand. Figure out who needs a young driver like yourself. You got to think about that. Who could that be, Taylor? Hopefully you know exactly what I'm telling you, Taylor. Let's see. Barbecue, Joe? I don't really know what you mean about that. Joe, do you think Jason Galvin would ever want to race Top Fuel someday? Of course. That's a crazy question. Definitely he would. I like zMAX. I still think drag racing works better at a smaller, more homegrown drag strip like Maple Grove. Yeah, but who cares? Drag Racing Mayhem. Really, like that kind of opinion. It's such a, I'm not telling your opinion is a waste of time. It's an opinion, but what are you saying? We should, what should we do? There's no answer to that. I love drag racing at all venues. I love drag racing at Vegas. It's a super venue. I love the idea. You're going to go see the Rolling Stones. Where do you want to see them? You want to see them in a stadium, or do you want to see them in a small bar? It's a preference, and your preference might be different depending on the moment. So I don't know. I think sometimes we, as drag racing aficionados, shoot ourselves in the foot with these micro opinions. That's a micro opinion. Drag Racing Mayhem, go push the sport on some people, man. Go bring on some new fans instead of yeah, it works so much better. And it's really great when there's only 10 people watching it because it's a VIP experience when there's nobody else but me seeing it. Because then it's only for me. You get my vibe there? The holy grail of collectibles. I like where your head's at, Monica. My B-Day is Thursday, Joe. I start my Summer of Love year 1967. Congratulations, Lonnie. That's great stuff. I'm just patiently waiting on Joliet. Well, me too. I can't wait. Richard says, thanks for another great live show. Thanks for bringing it. Great show, Joe. I'm bringing my boyfriend to Sonoma for the first time. You see on NHRA.tv, says Kara. And everybody loves the tree. Yeah, maybe that'll be it when I fall upon hard times. You can take advantage of me by purchasing the tree. I do want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the WFO universe and everybody out there. Before we go, I had a, kind of a thrill, something exciting, something that was unexpected happened to me over this past week or so. And I was named one of the NHRA movers and shakers and deal makers for this next episode of NHRA National Dragster. And what a stunner. What a shock. Phil Burgess let me know that it was going to be happening in Pomona, and I was kind of taken aback, if you will. And then Kelly Wade did an interview with me in Vegas and asked me a bunch of questions about probing stuff about why I'm doing this and what's driving me and things that I really, you don't consider on the daily about what you're doing when you're just kind of at work doing what you like. And to see the final rendering version of it out there digitally on NHRA.com. I've shared a couple of links. Blown away, guys. Blown away. Stunned, shocked, humbled. All of these words, all of these terms. The vocabulary is not deep enough to express the gratitude that I feel being able to be, acknowledged. Because I go to work every day. Every day I go to work. I know this sport is so much cooler than those of us who love it. And it can be big and well-known and appreciated with millions of people logged on and tuned in, wondering if Tony Stewart is going to win another race, if Randy Couture is going to, how's he going to do in a pro mod? Whether or not Dallas Glenn is going to win the regular season, whether or not Erica Enders is going to get back on top, like all of these amazing stories. And a lot of time is spent, Jason Logan, Jason Galvin, myself, the team, thinking about these things. But WFO has been around since 2009, building the race car, Project Pontiac, like doing something stupid. And building a race car gets acknowledged. I'm just humbled by it. And how does something like that happen, right? Like, well, the answer is it's the audience. It's you guys. It's this audience of WFO. And the fact that you show up every week and you share the show and you subscribe on iTunes and Apple Podcasts, that's what makes the show the show. There's a credibility because of you. And I'm a vessel. Spencer Massey, Clay Millican talking together about bracket racing and how great it is on the weekend of the 1,000th top fuel race. Just naturally segueing back and forth between these disciplines of racing. To me, it's awesome. To me, it's awesome. And if you're a fan of 2 cars accelerating, sometimes 4, I appreciate the support of the show. And, there's not like, to see that story was really amazing. I know my dad would have been super happy. Okay, I haven't seen the Don Garlitz yoga video. I don't know what it is. You're up on something that I don't know what it is. But it sounds interesting. Appreciate everybody out there again. Project Pontiac t-shirts are going pretty well. Pretty surprised. You don't have to be a Pontiac fan. You just have to like Project Pontiac. We do have a video up. Project Pontiac goes to TBM Brakes. Not doing great. I think I messed up something with the format. But hey, we can always try again, right? Watch out for WFO on Powertube TV, guys. If you have downloaded the Powertube TV app, Bruno has just been announced as the new talent for Pinks on Powertube TV. I'm talking new episodes. The only place you're going to see it is on Powertube TV. That's very cool that Powertube is on. Excited to see Pro Stock Motorcycle back. Got a lot of friends in that class. And, Gainesville, some of the teams had some really good runs. So you never know who's going to go out there and be successful. Just saying. Just saying. Thanks to Clay Millican. Thanks to Spence. Krista Baldwin for putting the car out there. I think that is very exciting as well. And let's go. It's just that simple. The Ignition podcast is in the archive if you want to hear an audio-only experience that has got literally around the world scale. Australia, UK, like we've got listeners from everywhere that are checking out the show, not only checking it out, but chiming in, part of the show. Check it out, Ignition. It's audio-only podcast. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you all. We'll see you in Charlotte. zMAX Dragway, baby. The 1,000th Top Fuel race.
Like this show? Want more? Then head to WatchPTTV.com, the new 100% free Powertube TV streaming network. Home of the best classic and new motorsports racing and build shows on the web.